Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 13th Mama Charitable Foundation Visiting Professor in Buddhist Studies lecture series. The theme of this series this time is the interrelationship between the texts, images, and rituals in Mongolian Buddhism. Today is the second lecture of the series, and we are very happy and honored to have invited Professor Vesna Wallace, the Mama Charitable Foundation Visiting Professor this year, to share with us her insight and wisdom again. Before the lecture begins, I would like to invite Professor Georges Hakis from the Hong Kong Youth Center of Buddhist Studies to introduce Professor Wallace. Professor Hakis, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us again for this very exciting lecture series. I don't need to introduce Professor Wallace. I think everybody knows her, and those of you who came during the first lecture, you probably are quite familiar with her work. But nevertheless, I will do so, just in case there are some new people who have joined us. Professor Vesna Wallace is a distinguished university professor of South Asian and Inner Asian Buddhist traditions in the Department of Religious Studies at the University of California, Santa Barbara. She has authored over 90 publications. I don't know how you've done that, but it's impressive, including 8 books, in addition to 2 books that are currently in press, and numerous articles and book chapters on diverse aspects of Indian and Mongolian Buddhist traditions. She is also an affiliate faculty in Translation Studies program and in Medical Humanities and Disabilities program at UCSB. She serves on many international editorial and advisory boards and is currently the executive director of Mongolia Foundation in the US. Now, last lecture, we had the great pleasure to be introduced to a very interesting topic, and for Professor Wallace to provide us with a background of what is actually going to be a follow-up lecture today, and of course don't miss the last lecture on Monday. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Professor Wallace.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here. It almost feels like coming to some kind of home where all these wonderful colleagues and students and staff that I met throughout the years, and it really feels wonderful to be here. So tomorrow, on 24th, we will be talking more about Poa practices and other ritual practices that may be to some of you more interesting than topic today. But we will look at topic of imagination and linguistic imagery that is used, not just linguistic, but you will see also mental imagery used in aspirational prayers for Shambhala. And then let's see if I remember how to use this. So then I will first give some general comments, learn about aspirational prayers, how to think about these prayers, what they do, and then we will look in narrative description. I can't address them all because again, one could speak 3 months about all of this. So everything has to be somewhat abbreviated, but narrative descriptions of Shambhala that became inspiration for visualization practices and for these wish prayers for rebirths in Shambhala. And then we will look at some of these aspirational prayers for rebirths in Shambhala, so you can see how some of those look like and what we learn from them. Let me just get a sip of water before. So this lecture explores, as I mentioned, various aspirational prayers for rebirths in Shambhala considering several motivating factors that influence their creation. Some of the factors, like a historical background, we already discussed, so I will not repeat that. But we will look some other factors. But these factors include primarily descriptions of Shambhala and related eschatological events, visions received through prophetic dreams, and the social and political context surrounding the composition of these works, which we kind of covered last time. Aspirational prayers for rebels in Shambhala constitute a distinct subgroup of literary genre of aspirational prayers found in Mahayana sutras and in tantric sadhanas. Buddhism bounds in it, especially Mahayana and Vajrayana. And these prayers serve as contemplative prayers where aspiration, petition, and eulogy often intersect, taking the form of either verbal expression or, as you will see, even physical pilgrimage. So, characterized by imagination, intentionality, and pragmatic objectives, these aspirational prayers act as religious practices imbued with auspicious words and reflect the aspirant's kind of determination to engage in self-cultivation practices and the preservation of the Buddha Dharma. The fundamental premise is that aspirants must articulate their intentions in prayer before those intentions can be realized. So without prayer, maybe doesn't work, right? So the aspirants' longing for rebirth in Shambhala and their commitment to actively participate in the eschatological struggle for the preservation of Dharma are explicitly conveyed to both the invoked Divine Guru, or Kala Chakra in this context, and the Kalki kings of Shambhala. Aspirational prayers express the aspirant's conscious awareness of the current circumstances and transformed reality they seek upon fulfillment of their aspirations. These prayers also serve as a foundational experience on the aspirant's religious journey toward the life in Shambhala and even beyond Shambhala. The practitioners hold the belief that pure intention, when paired with appropriate action, yields corresponding result. They understand that their connection to Shambhala is solidified through sincere prayer. And these aspirational prayers primarily reflect the aspirant's commitment and self-reliance while also embodying an expectation of divine blessing. So it kind of goes two ways. By praying for rebirth in Shambhala, the aspirant actively crafts his own or her own future narrative, future biography. Although focused on the future, these aspirations enable the aspirant to gain new experiences through visionary language and ignite the imagination, allowing them to transcend both temporal and spatial limitations, and for a moment enter the realm of enlightened beings. Through prayer, the aspirants access a subjective time that breaks through the ordinary boundaries of their physical existence. The visionary language found in aspirational prayers profoundly influences both the cognitive and emotional processes of the aspirants, a characteristic that permeates both, you will see, diversified prayers dedicated to Shambhala and the prose narratives that describe Shambhala. Through the use of this evocative language and the practices of self-objectification, and you will see even self-heroization, the aspirants, dissatisfied with their current existence, temporarily transcend their reality, immersing themselves in the realm that promises a more fulfilling social and spiritual life. In this envisioned world, the aspirants assume the role of a courageous protagonist engaged in the defense and preservation of the Dharma. By anticipating their involvement in eschatological battle, poised to transform the social and religious landscape, they envision a new chapter in their religious identity and personal narrative. In the aspirant's prayer, much like in the act of imagination that we explored later, the aspirants see themselves maintaining the same religious and gender identity, but stepping into different social role. See, one doesn't have to imagine oneself as male or female to enter the Shambhala. This dynamic, glasses are getting bad, illustrates yet another way in which aspirational prayer bridges the present with the future. The effectiveness of the linguistic imagery in the narrative descriptions of Shambhala originates from the author's ability to diminish the epistemic distance of the Mongolian aspirants who are culturally and religiously familiar with the concept of Buddhist otherworlds. This allows the aspirant to vividly interpret Shambhala through the author's perspectives. The literary and poetic imagery embedded in the descriptive narratives and aspirational prayers acts as a meaningful substitute for the aspirant's direct perception of Shambhala, leaving enduring impressions on their minds. It also guides them on an inner journey to this utopian realm, offering a fleeting sense of its immediate presence by transforming the experience of physical, temporal, and social space. The literary imagery effectively renders the realm of Shambhala both conceivable and knowable. But before we explore the various Mongolian aspirational prayers, it is important to consider the Mongolian descriptions of Shambhala and its associated eschatology. This is what I will first address and described, lead you through their narrative a little bit into that realm, so you can visualize it as well. And this inquiry will illuminate the strong connections between the narrative descriptions of Shambhala and the aspirational prayers related to it. These aspirational prayers signify a vital initial phase in the aspirant's objective experience of Shambhala, grounded in the narratives and reflected in their subjective and intersubjective experiences. These experiences are further manifested through rituals and koa practices aimed at facilitating rebirth of Shambhala, and we will discuss them in the third lecture. By articulating both aspiration and steadfast confidence in the compassion of a benevolent Guru Kala Chakra, aspirational prayers carry communicative function enriched with an emotive tone. Descriptive narratives of Shambhala aim to inform, inspire, and predict, while aspirational prayers are designed to be actively performed and experienced. By vocalizing an aspirational prayer, the aspirants can integrate the emotional and cognitive dimensions of their religious experience, thereby alleviating any uncertainty surrounding the prayer's outcome. As we will explore, aspirational prayers to Shambhala serve as realistic and performative expressions that establish connection between the aspirant and the Shambhala lineage. That connection to the Shambhala lineage is really important, as you will see. These prayers evoke an immediate emotional experience of that connection. They provide a means for the aspirants to express admiration and make petitions to the enlightened rulers of Shambhala, while also engaging in imaginative interaction with their realm in anticipation of meeting them in the future. This interactive element is particularly prominent in rituals that incorporate aspirational prayers, which will be examined again in the third lecture. I not long ago read a book by a British sociologist by name John Ury, who wrote a book, The Tourist Gaze. And I found something that I felt could be applied here. So John Ury suggests that individuals travel in search of proximity to three dimensions, which are face-to-face interaction with others, encounters with distinct locations, and moments shared during special events. Exactly what he says resonates with aspirants' desires to connect with the world of Shambhala and to physically participate in that realm. In the interim, until this goal is realized, the aspirants become temporary visitors to this utopian world of Shambhala through the imagery generated in their prayers for rebirth. This realm is nearly inaccessible in their current physical state, and their future participation in that world is not entirely otherworldly, rather it is intricately linked with earthly space and time. So I will now speak about inspirational and narrative descriptions of Shambhala that I have found in Mongolian sources, and I won't be able to address all of them because there are more than one, but I will give you one of these descriptions, and let's see if I... So the Mongolian author by name Dachoilavan Agrambat, also known as Prajnasagar Akshara Piazza, who lived at the time when all of these other authors lived, late 19th, early 20th centuries, presents an intriguing narrative regarding the origin of the term Shambhala as a place name in his 1921 text called The Precious Crystal Stairway that illuminate the path of journeying to glorious Shambhala, the abode of Siddhi. His aim is to illustrate the close relationship between Shambhala and the Shakya clan, thereby connecting it to the historical Buddha Shakyamuni. In his narrative, one of members of the Shakya clan was going to commit some criminal act, and Buddha Shakyamuni gives him like a relics, a little bit of his nails and hair, and sends him into distant land so that he wouldn't perform this crime and kill lots of people. So he travels and comes to this unknown region and brings these relics, and the stupa is built in that place to hold these relics, and he calls this Shambhala, and it becomes later this land of Shambhala. So according to Gachoi Lama, Shambhala eventually evolved into sacred mandala of the earth, animated by the wheel of Dharma and celebrated through the illusory dance of the hairs of jinas and victorious ones, particularly represented by the 7 Dharma kings and 25 Kalki kings. In contrast, another esteemed Mongolian Lama, Agwan Dangdisuren, referred to as a Bijadir Lama, he recounts a different tale in his 1917 work titled A Swift Path to Kalapa, and the long title you have there. He discusses a branch of the Shakya lineage that originated in Kapilavastu and made its way to Shambhala through the power of prayer. This lineage's successor was King Surya Prabha, the father of King Suchandra of Shambhala, who compiled and taught the Kalachakra Tantra. Jambadoj, in his chronicle called The Crystal Mirror, written in 1848, highlights the connection between Shambhala and the Shakya lineage, a relationship first mentioned in the Kalachakra Tantra itself. He describes the king of Shambhala as embodying the exceptional qualities of highly realized beings who have attained bliss, boundless wisdom, and unobstructed mind, supernatural abilities, and magical powers to the peak of both sutric and tantric meditative practices. According to Jamba Dorje, Shambhala is situated to the north of the region of the known as Rinten, which is inhabited by the Mongols, Mongolian people referred to as Hua Hua or Muslim. He portrays it as circular, resembling the 8-petaled lotus. The center of this lotus spans 500 leagues, while each of the 8 petals extends 1,000 leagues. Surrounding the outer rim of the lotus are snow-capped mountains. Within this structure lie 1 million towns covering 200 leagues, encircling the capital of Shambhala called Kalapa. At the heart, these are two slightly different representations of Shambhala and Kalapa. At the heart of Kalapa stands a magnificent palace belonging to the holy emperor of Shambhala, crafted from 5 types of precious materials: emeralds, crystals, diamonds, pearls, and so on. The brilliance of its radiance surpasses that of 15 suns. The light emanating from the jewels adorning the walls of the Kalki's palace renders it impossible to distinguish between night and day. Numerous manifestations of living beings are visible on the transparent walls of the palace, extending up to 500 leagues in every direction. The palace windows, fashioned as wheels of jewels, provide a view of the solar and lunar mansions, constellations, heavenly pleasure groves, stars, and so on. The king's throne, crafted from gold sourced from the Jambu River, exudes the fragrance of sandalwood perfume in all directions. The value of cotton or silk materials used for the throne mats or pillows reaches 10 million silver coins. The king adorns himself with artificial ushnisha made of lion's mane and wears a crown also composed of gold from the Jambu River. Each jewel on his wrists and ankles boasts a value of 10 million tiles of silver coins. His body manifests a whitish hue, encircled by a translucent red light that commands awe. The magnificence of the king, along with his ministers and army generals, is beyond that anyone can bear. The kings possess various modes of transportation, including whitish yellow antelopes, winged elephants, swift horses, and chariots. Their treasures include offerings from Nagas, Asuras, and Kinnaras, all of whom serve them faithfully. In Shambhala, the culinary offerings surpass even those of god Indra. Although the king possesses many queens, only one will bear a son destined to become the most illustrious emperor, known as Hovilgan. Hovilgan in Mongolian means basically somebody who will be after age of 18 be Tulku, Nirmanakaya. Upon his birth, the radiant light shines from his body for 7 days, after which he ascends to the throne. When a daughter is born into the families of 96 million minor kings, a rain of blue lotuses falls at the time of her blooming, marking her as a future queen who will give birth to the crown prince of Hovilgan. I'm describing it to you so you know with which vision they come to these prayers. They're not just envisioning anything that they like. To the south of the city of Kalapa lies the Malaya Pleasure Grove, encompassing a grand area of 12 leagues. Here stands the Kalachakra Mandala. crafted from precious jewels and erected by Suchandra, an emanation of Vajrapani, the 10th stage Bodhisattva. The mandala itself measures 412 cubits on each side, and within this sacred space, visitors can also admire numerous other mandalas constructed by later kings that succeeded the King Suchandra. There are two expansive lakes, one located on the eastern side of the Kalachakra mandala and the other on its western side. The waters flowing from these lakes branch into two directions, delineating the 8 petals of Shambhala and forming 8 distinct peninsulas. Within each of these peninsulas, there are 12 million towns. Each minor king governs over 10 million towns. Consequently, the 96 minor kings collectively rule 96 million towns. Each of these kings possesses a powerful staff which enables his messenger to reach the intended location in a single instant. The inhabitants of Shambhala are characterized by their attractive appearance, and their provisions of food, drink, clothing, and ornaments are luxurious. In these practices of visualization, one is said to imagine that their virtue is impeccable. This is why their clothing, their appearance, physical appearance is so attractive. The people thrive under gentle laws, with absolutely no instance of killing or beating, nor any sickness of natural disasters. Just everything that our authors were facing, right? Every resident of Shambhala exhibits good manners and possesses sharp intellect. They are also inclined towards virtuous speech and are attentive to the profound secrets found within the scriptures and dharanis. Upon death, each individual is reborn in a pure land rather than in an unfortunate realm. On the 15 days of the 3rd month each year, the Kalki Chakravarti bestows the Kala Chakra empowerment and teaches the Kala Chakra Tantra to many fortunate beings. That's a abbreviated version and of only one description. Author Minchu Dechin Garaf elaborates on the concept of Shambhala in his work titled The Jewel Step of a Fortunate Disciples, a prayer for true rebirth in the land of Shambhala, the great city, in the land that captivates the people's minds, and for the definite meaning with the Dharma of Raudra Kalki. He presents Shambhala as an esoteric manifestation of Sukhavati within the human realm, referring to it as the place of the highest city and as a marvelous pure land, where one can achieve Buddhahood within a single lifetime. In Sharaf's vision, all the minor kings governing 96 million towns of Shambhala are seen as actual manifestations of the Buddhas. So they're no longer just the bodhisattvas of the 10th stage, but they are Buddhas. They rule according to dual law, the law of Dharma and the law of state, first established by the mythical king Mahasamata at the formation of our world. Thus, when the 25th Kalki Raudra Chakri ascends to the throne of Shambhala as a universal emperor, they tell us it will happen in the year of the fire sheep during the 22nd year of the 60th cycle. Many have tried to calculate, and some say, in the Tibetan writings, they usually say it is 364 years from now. Others, Mongolians, give different numbers, so who knows. But it is said that at that time, he will govern in the same spirit, fostering the simultaneous flourishing of both the state and religion, and in his endeavors, he will be undifferentiated from the Buddha. The anticipation among Mongolian monastics of encountering the Kalki king as an intimate guru and swiftly attaining Buddhahood led to a flourishing number of aspirational prayers, sadhanas, and various rituals related to rebirth in Shambhala. As the prospects of a Buddhist life in Mongolia became increasingly bleak, greater emphasis was placed on the fortunate era of perfection, a new phase in Buddhist history marked by the restoration of the Buddha Dharma and the enduring flourishing of both nature and humanity. Shambhala, envisioned as a harmonious Buddhist society found on the concept of vast autonomous religious clanship, is also a site of contention between insiders and outsiders to opposing external threats to Shambhala. In contrast to pre-modern Mongolian writings that employed a futuristic approach to interpret the Kalachakra Tantra's prophecy of the great Shambhala war, early 20th century scholars adopted a historicist method. They infused a sense of immediacy into their analysis, relating the events depicted in the Kalachakra Tantra and subsequent Tibetan and Mongolian texts directly to their contemporary circumstances. So let us turn now to aspirational prayers for rebirth in Shambhala. Up till now, do you have any questions?
Well, yes. I mean, or I don't know.
Because now we will.
You're going to the author. Yeah, thank you. That was really interesting. And I was reading the Shambhala Namgyik by the third Panchen Lama.
Yeah.
And the description of Shambhala it really differs from what you have shown us here. I mean, there is an ocean, right? It's an island.
Yeah.
It looks like Lama Island. Well, there are a few mountains, but
We have a
we don't get snow, right?
right.
Anyway, and then you speak. You were talking about a lineage, like a Shambhala lineage.
Yes.
So I was also curious about that. Does it go back to the Kalachakra Tantra? Or?
It must come
That's
back.
for the time being.
Exactly, it must come back to it because at the time of a battle, you will be either on the side of a good or an evil, right? So if you're creating a lineage with Shambhala, then this is guaranteed. And then at the time of a battle, you will be saved by the Shambhala army. When I won't be speaking about this in these lectures, but I think I maybe spoke about this previously when I came here, right? More about this Shambhala war, where Mongolians believe it will be actual battle, not just something that King of Shambhala sends illusory mountain horses, right? And an inimical army just backs and becomes subdued. But rather, this is for Mongols, this is an actual battle in which everybody who will be killed in that battle, including the insects and bugs that will be smashed by the hooves of the horses, will be immediately be reborn in a pure land. So yeah, here Shambhala has these lakes on the east and west, mountains in the north, but on the south is still River Sita, right? Which you have to cross in order to get to Shambhala.
But on the picture there was an ocean, not a river.
Yeah, but supposedly that River Sita is so huge. It's like it's a moving water, but it is super cold and dangerous. A person cannot cross on their own. But there is this magical fish, right, that comes, it takes you across the river, and a giant fish, and only then you can cross. It's like that is a sign that you are accepted into Shambhala if that fish shows up. So there is a story how two Indian yogis in the 17th century came to Mongolia. They came on a flying carpet. And they came to Zanabasa, the first Yatsudamba, and asked the direction, how to get to Shambhala. And he gave them very strict, very good descriptions, and then gave them advice. When you come to the Sita River, they said, don't touch it. If you touch it, you will die. So rather wait until that fish shows up. If a fish comes, then the fish will transport you and you're safe, otherwise will not try. But the student of a senior yogi, the younger one, who was curious, story says that he put a finger in the Sita River, finger immediately fell off and he died. Then this senior one became afraid, came back to Mongolia and gave this report. Yeah, but the Sita River looks like an ocean. That's true.
But it's located in the north of Mongolia.
Yes, yes.
Not in Siberia or something.
Yeah, there was a north, but where is that north? And obviously when you read how large it is, but also in Kalachakra Tantra it says it has 96 million villages and so on. That's like a parallel universe. That's why if I listen to Tibetan lamas, they will say, oh, that's probably somewhere parallel universe, either on this planet or somewhere in the cosmos, and so on. Because where is it, right? It's so huge. Yeah, but it is different than Panchen Lama's description. But there are also some similarities. Yeah, they don't talk which language is spoken, right? Panchen Lama speaks about Sanskrit being spoken. Everybody speaks Sanskrit if I remember, in Shambhala, and men wear blue clothing, women wear white clothing, some decorated with some precious stones on edges. Here, no mention of that. So everybody seems to have a different version. So let's turn now to aspirational prayers if no one has any other questions about this, or we can come back to it, right? So among these preserved aspirational prayers for Shambhala composed by our Mongolian authors, some texts remain anonymous, we don't know who wrote them, while others are included in their respective collected works. The numerous dangers that await those journeying to terrestrial Shambhala in their current bodies have led many then to prefer rebirth in that sacred realm. Rebirth in Shambhala appears to be more attainable through the power of aspiration prayer, rituals, and contemplative practices, and safer. As untitled and anonymous Mongolian text discovered by Gagapadre in Buryatia and partially based on the third or the sixth Panchen Lama of Sampalden Yeshe's guide to Shambhala, cautions the various risks faced by travelers to Shambhala. I don't know if I have his reference here. Yeah. Cautions them to travel. It says, unless you have mastered the Vidya mantras. If you haven't mastered the Vidya mantras, don't try. After detailing the types of dangers that may be encountered along the journey, I won't have time to present them to you, but the author concludes with these following remarks. Thus, as the omniscient one has explained, one should aspire to reach Shambhala through strong prayers for rebirth at the time when the Kalki king Rudra or Raudra turns the wheel of Dharma. It is taught that through these aspirational prayers, one will certainly meet him. May all session beings, without exception, encounter the Kalki Rudra and others with the truth of aspiration prayers and connect with the Buddhas. The descriptions of Shambhala, which are incorporated to various degrees in aspirational prayers for rebirth, reflects those found in narrative accounts. So some of the prayers that I share with you, I will skip those accounts because these are very similar to what you just heard, so you don't need to repeat them. In many cases, the recitations of these aspirational prayers include a meditation that involves visualization of Shambhala. In his earlier mentioned work, Mingyur Dechin Shara, outlines the typology and practice of 5 different kinds of aspirational prayers for rebirth in Shambhala. These prayers typically follow the confession of sins and precede the practice of the transference of consciousness to Shambhala, a topic that will be addressed in the 3rd lecture. The first of the 5 prayers is a contemplative prayer aimed at establishing a connection with Shambhala. This involves reciting and simultaneously visualizing the layout of Shambhala. You visualize that everything that's been described, right? And its aesthetic feature, the sublime Kala Chakra Mandala, and all of its inhabitants. One visualizes everything that one can. Therefore, to forge a personal connection with Shambhala, the aspirant must first imaginatively envision and become familiar with it. Once this visualization is accomplished, the aspirant prays to be reborn in the glorious, perfect Shambhala, to practice Dharma, become a fortunate, jewel-like disciple, and swiftly achieve Buddhahood. This prayer serves as a petition for rebirth in Shambhala, where the aspirants further entreat that their virtuous mind be quickly transferred there by reciting this. Teacher, when I am in the bardo, please show me the path. Divine assembly with supreme minds, please lead me. Dakas and Dakinis, please welcome me. Dharmapalas, please remove the obstacles and those who do me harm. May I reach this fortunate and pure land through the power of their kind words and blessings. And then at the end, at the time of my delivery, may the enlightened ones, Bodhisattvas, Dakas, and Dakinis grant me initiation, bestowing a shower of blessings. The final 3 phases of the prayer focus on engaging with Raudra Chakri king himself, his queens, his sons, noblemen, Dharani holders, yogis and yoginis, as well as other prominent figures of Shambhala. And this involves receiving their guidance and striving towards the attainment of Buddhahood. The themes present in these 5 prayers of Mingyur Dechin Shara often constitute key elements of a singular prayer found in various sources. The aspirational prayers for rebirth in Shambhala, which reference the dramatic eschatological events and the heroic triumph of Raudra Chakri, evoke the essence of Mongolian heroic poetry. One notable example is the prayer for Shambhala, composed by Inner Mongolian Lama, the 4th Megegegen, who is renowned for popularizing Buddhist teaching among the Mongolian laity. He was writing only in Mongolian, so that Mongolian laity can read and understand. In his versified prayer, Mergen Gegen vividly depicts the magnificent palace of Kalapa, the residence of the ruler of Shambhala, while extolling him and celebrating his valorous deeds in a battle and his triumph over the enemies of Dharma. At the conclusion of the prayer, Mergen Gegen expresses his aspiration for rebirth in Shambhala, hoping to be appointed as a leader among the companions of the king of Shambhala during this impending great battle against the adversary, ultimately seeking the supreme city of awakening. His portrayal of Shambhala mirrors the narrative descriptions found in the prose texts. So, after giving praises to Shambhala and describing the things we already see, then he writes, "By this prayer to you, Guru, the Savior, who disseminates the great ancient tradition of glorious Kala Chakra in Shambhala, in the great city in the north, may these true words of mine be accomplished. The great city of Kalapa in the northern direction, the world of the sublime Dharma of great beings who worship Kala Chakra, Bodhisattvas and others, clearly surpasses Indra's palace. You can see how he... and then he describes how it looks, and so I skipped all those descriptive verses, and then he continues with the prayer. Noble Savior, Holy Lama, Eternal One, riding a perfect mountain horse with the wings of wind and projecting a spear in your hand at the adversaries, may you instantly and surely accompany me. Dwell in the assembly of fierce reinforcement which crushes the enemy's 10 million military troops of various colors, and their 400,000 elephants drunken with liquor, with your 100,000 maddened elephants, and their golden chariots, with your golden chariots, and dwell with your assembly that exterminates all their minor soldiers with knives. He's describing the battle, right? And one called Hanumanda, having hurled a sharp spear at Mahachandrapura on a horse. Hanumanda is a general in the military of the king of Raudra, King Shambhala, and Mahachandrapura is a general of the enemy's army. By himself stabbing the heart of him who holds the wrong views, punishing the 12 gods led by Maharudra. I don't know if I have put all of this. Destroying their elephants, and with your great elephants, vanquishing their horses with your mountain horses, pulverizing their great golden chariots with your chariots, and having subjugated their kings, cutting off the entire line of the adversary at the time of making the entire Dharma of the turning of the Kala Chakra teaching prosper. Please accompany me. Likewise, after teaching the Dharma for many years, on the 22nd of the second month of the horse year, at the time when Viras and Dakinis sound the music, when you, together with your 10,000 assistants, manifest the Sambhogakaya, the enjoyment body in the Akanishta heaven, please make me achieve the Supreme City. This is when the battle is conquering. When you savor Guru, become a king who sets in motion the fierce wheel in a palace of the future era in order to benefit them. Please kindly take me as the first ranking among your assistants and compassionately guide me as the Supreme City. In these prophecies, it is said that Buddha turned the gentle wheel of Dharma, whereas the Raudra Chakli will turn the fierce wheel of Dharma. This fierce wheel of Dharma is like this iron wheel. As you who study Buddhism know the stories of Chakravartins, how one becomes a Chakravarti, right? That the golden wheel manifests first, right? And chooses the king, and then the king follows this. So this is like something that like Buddha Shakyamuni turned that golden wheel, but here it will be iron wheel that will conquer these enemies of Dharma once forever. Here just an image of Hanumanda on his horse in the paintings. And here too, stabbing the heart of a leader of enemies. By reciting those verses, the aspirant imaginatively reconstructs the image of Shambhala at the great battle, generating a quasi-sensory experience that simulates the actual perception of Shambhala and the individual's role in this conflict. Merge Gegen's prayer resonates with the earlier composed aspirational prayers for Shambhala by the third Panchen Lama, entitled The Words of Prayer for Rebirth in the Northern Shambhala. Both Tibetan and Mongolian versions of this prayer circulated widely in Mongolia, inspiring Mongolian monastics to create similar prayers. You can find them even in contemporary Mongolian translations. Subsequent Panchen Lamas emphasized their predictions of rulership in Shambhala, which further motivated Mongolian Lamas to aspire to join them in the battle for Shambhala. Consequently, in Mongolian aspirational prayers for rebels in Shambhala, we find declarations of high-ranking Mongolian lamas expressing their aspiration for exalted positions in Shambhala and desire to align with the Panchen Lama, who is destined to lead Shambhala's army against the barbarian forces and promote Buddha Dharma throughout Jambudvipa. This inspiration can be traced back to short versified homage to the lineage of Panchen Lamas, titled The Lotus Face of the Lord of Sages. In this text, the fourth Panchen Lama, Lobsang Chokyi Gyaltsen, if we take that, praises one of his previous incarnations as Manjushri Kalki with the following words: I supplicate the Kalki, the lord of the clan, known as Manjushri, who abbreviated the glorious primordial Buddha Tantra in the great jewel palace beautified by Kailasha. The notion that successive incarnations of Panchen Lamas are regarded as the first and last Kalkis of Shambhala and propagated by Longdo Lama, a renowned Tibetan teacher influential among Halkha scholars of the 18th and later centuries, was later echoed in various writings from the 19th to early 20th centuries. This includes notable works such as Jambadoji's Chronicle Crystal Mirror, which we already mentioned, and anonymous texts from Buryatia. I don't know if I have it. No? Sorry, I don't have it in here. This anonymous text called This is a sutra that shows the conditions of the country of Shambhala, the epoch of the kings, and the ways and means of traveling there, along with other Mongolian sources. Among the many oral traditions concerning Mongolian lamas seeking a connection with Shambhala is an account detailing the experience of the fifth Noyon Hutuktu, or Turku, Danzan Ravja, a prominent lama and the yogi from the Gobi region who lived in the 19th century. In his later years, Danzan Ravja developed a keen interest in the Kala Chakra teachings and Shambhala. According to his autobiography, he often experienced unsettling visions and dreams foretelling times of a social turmoil and significant battle between hostile barbarian forces and the army of Shambhala. In 1827, following his second Kala Chakra initiation from the fourth Chankya who took to Danzan Ravja, recorded a prophecy he received during one of his visions, and the prophecy states, the great Tibetan Siddha, Longdol Rinpoche, will sit on the royal throne of Shambhala. At that time, you, Danzan Ravja, establish a Kala Chakra monastic college. Around that time, he composed his short Guru Yoga of glorious Kala Chakra in the Tibetan language, in which he expressed his aspiration for rebirth in Shambhala, and he instructed his disciples to do the same. Okay, I have skipped a number of verses too because it will take time, so you can just read these later ones. In an instant, within the state of the luminous Dharma body, I become the nature of Lord Kala Chakra, with one face and two arms, embracing the consort Vishwamata, perfectly blazing with lights of the major and minor marks. Then comes the mantra, Kala Chakra, and by the power of such single-pointed meditation and recitation, may the powerful protector take care of me without separation, and may my journey on the very pure, excellent path to northern Shambhala, the jewel treasury, be accomplished. in a colophon, he said it was written down in an instant by the one called Danzanravja, in accordance with the sublime teachings, which is like a life force of the teachings in the East. According to Danzanravja's autobiography, in 1854, 2 years prior to his death, he experienced a troubling prophetic vision which included the premonition of his own impending death. As a result of this dream, he felt compelled to swiftly construct the Kalachakra temple surrounded by a complex of 108 stupas at a sacred site near his Hamar monastery, and some of you have been there. So this is an aerial view of this place that he built. So location previously consecrated by the 7th Panchalama during his visit to Mongolia, or 5th, if you can do your calculations. At this time, Danzavraja envisioned the celestial Sukhavati. At this exact place, he had a vision of this celestial Sukhavati. At that same year, it was consecrated once more as a portal to Shambhala, a place where pilgrims could come to pray for their rebirths in Shambhala and to have the opportunity to meet Danzanravja there. This portal was also intended as a refuge for pilgrims during the times of global crisis and a place to engage in the purificatory practices essential for rebirths in Shambhala. Following Danzanravja's death, the construction of the temple was completed in a remarkable 124 days. It featured a three-dimensional Kalachakra mandala, a wall of 108 stupas, which are rebuilt. Everything was destroyed during communist revolution, so this part is rebuilt here. And the 108 stupas symbolizing the ring of snow-capped mountains encircling the land of Shambhala. So this is like a mini Shambhala, or gates of the three sides of the stupas. You can see gates there, symbolizing the stupa wall. Gates on the three sides of the stupa wall, and the large stone cairn where prayers for rebirths to Shambhala could be offered. And here are the gates through which one enters into this portal to Shambhala through this gate. And then when one has done this pilgrimage and prayers, enters out on the other side. So enters here and exits on this side of Shambhala. Visiting this site is regarded as equivalent to an actual pilgrimage to the land of Shambhala, providing an embodied sensory experience that ritualizes the pilgrimage aim of rebirth to Shambhala, ultimately leading to the pilgrim's actual rebirth there. Let me just show another photo. The pilgrim will commence with prostrations along with the offerings and prayers at Hamar Monastery. And then following this, the pilgrims will set out on foot, traveling a 2-kilometer path leading to Shambhala portal, while reciting mantras for purification along the way. Before entering the site, pilgrims will begin from this eastern direction, circumambulating the exterior of the stupa wall in a clockwise manner 3 times, all the while supplicating for the auspicious fulfillment of their pilgrimage. As pilgrim passes through the gate that you have seen, they should recite, "I am purifying my body, speech, and mind." And upon entering this sacred site, they are instructed to pray and meditate on their past negative actions. They should write these actions down on a piece of paper and then burn them in the stone cavern that you see here, known as the Preta's belly, facing the northeastern direction. After purifying their body, speech, and mind in this manner, pilgrims are advised to think this way. The blessing bestowed by Gegen Danzaravja has been included in my merit. Then, next, they pay homage to Kala Chakra with body, speech, and mind, contemplating by the virtue of the blessing bestowed by you, Kala Chakra, who have transcended time, may I, after being born in the land of Shambhala, attain the sanctity of the Buddha. Then they mentally offer homage to all 108 stupas and aspire to attain Buddhahood. Continuing further into the enclosed side, pilgrims will encounter 3 small rock cairns arranged in a diagonal line pointing toward the sacred mountain called Hanbayan Zuhul. I didn't find in my computer here all the images. So while facing this mountain, they are to cultivate wholesome aspirations and make the offerings of vodka across the 3 cairns. In the area where a small Kala Chakra temple once stood, housing the symbolic Kala Chakra mandala of Shambhala in the capital Kalapa, pilgrims should make offerings and recite prayers to Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, and Tsongkhapa, because they are Gelugpas. And for Mongolians, Tsongkhapa is the second Buddha. And while they make these offerings while thinking the following: with a happy mind, I rejoice in following the Dharma assembly of Shambhala. After offering mentally, they should also make actual offerings of grain and water poured into containers facing the hill, topped with an ovo. These stone cairns are called ovos, and this ovo is called tarhi, which means bread. Upon reaching this ovo, which symbolizes the crown chakra, pilgrims offer a blue ceremonial scarf and recite 3 times, Om, may happiness prevail. After circumambulating the ovo 3 times and walking towards the exit gate, pilgrims are encouraged to cultivate utmost faith and imagine this: I am in the land of Shambhala. So while contemplating the blessings of Shambhala, they are advised to pray for blessings and exit through the eastern side of the central gate, known as the Silver Gate. Having exited the site, they return to the ordinary world as purified and transformed individuals, establishing a strong connection with Shambhala lineage. The pilgrimage to Danzanravja Shambhala's portal embodies the physical, verbal, and mental expressions of the pilgrim's aspiration for rebirth in Shambhala. This journey transforms into specific type of aspirational prayer, where the pilgrims convey their desire to encounter the enlightened rule of Shambhala in a future life. Through the bodily and mental realization of a visit to Shambhala, the spatio-temporal gap between the pilgrim and the actual realm of Shambhala is effectively bridged. Danzanravja represents just one of numerous Mongolian lamas who endeavored to connect their native regions and monasteries to the Shambhala lineage, thus integrating them into Shakya clan. So it's not that you're just a member of a Shambhala, but also Shakya clan. Additionally, there were lay noblemen, such as those from the early 20th century, who pursued similar aspirations. Among them was a hereditary Hakka prince by name Seno Yonhan, Namnan Suren, who played a significant role in the Mongolian independence movement against the Qing and later served as the prime minister of Bodhan state. According to oral traditions and archival sources, he successfully integrated his territory into Shambhala lineage with the help of the 8th Jetudamba, who reportedly possessed a ring containing a magical stone, Ze. Right? And this stone is believed to have originally come from Utai Manshin, brought there by the 4th Jetudamba, who established the first Kala Chakra college in Nihuren. the stone's power is such that merely holding the ring allows its owner to transform in any form desired. So using this ring, the 8th Jetsudamba manifested as a king of Shambhala in front of the gatekeeper of Shambhala, commanding him to permit Soinoyan Han, this Khalkha prince, inclusion into the Shambhala lineage. So it's interesting, he as a king is asking the doorkeeper. So it is said that as a result of this connection, Soinoyan Han's territory was free of debt. No financial problems. This account likely emerged after the 8th Jetsudamba composed the prayer for Shambhala, titled Wish Prayer for Shambhala, at the request of this Khalkha prince. The colophon of the prayer explicitly states that Soinoyan Han requested the 8th Jetsudamba to compose a prayer for his rebels in Shambhala. Similar to Merge Gegen's prayer for rebels in Shambhala, the 8th Jetsudamba's prayer reflects both his and Soinoyan Han's aspiration to unite with Raudra Chakri during the great battle against barbarian forces. So he pays homage to Venerable Guru Kalachakra, who although has attained the supreme state of the three perfect body, became a supreme holder of the victory banner of the teaching of the spontaneous of Sandrakpa, another name for Tsongkhapa, right? The second jina. May I and others, mother beings, without exception, by the power of effort in pure virtuous activity, be born before too long in Shambhala of the northern direction, and be also perfected in the practice of the heirs of the victorious ones. What happened? After assuming, so the prayer continues, after assuming the form of a fierce Hanumanda, that general, when you thrust the sword into the heart of the enemies and obstructs who violate pledges, may I also, after being born in your retinue, please you, O protector, may all the transmigrating beings who make such aspiration never be separated from the gracious Guru. Having eliminated the seeds of the two types of obscuration, may they bring completion to the two types of benefits and swiftly reach perfect Buddhahood. The content of this prayer played a significant role in the widely circulated reports of the early 20th century, which predicted a rebirth of the 8th Jetsudamba as a general Hanuman within the army of Panchen Lama, who is anticipated to be the Kalki Raudra Chakri. Among the works associated with the Kala Chakra Tantra and Shambhala practices authored by previously mentioned lamas, including Sanchoidzin, whom I mentioned in the last lecture, is an aspirational and petitionary prayer for rebirth in Shambhala called Spontaneous Fulfillment of One's Desires. I don't know if I have included this one in... No, maybe I didn't include all other prayers. I should have them. No, it's not working. Let's see. Where?
It has moved.
Yeah, oh, it has moved. Yes, so I'm talking about this spontaneous fulfillment of one's desire. In this prayer, he expresses his feelings of helplessness, the desire for longevity, and requests permission to soon attain Shambhala. I don't think I have included these prayers because I was afraid I will be kind of bothered to you with all these prayers, but I'll just say one here, let's see. Since I'm roaming in the impure realms, O gracious one, help this wanderer. Because I'm helpless, may I swiftly reach Shambhala city from within the white wind energy of the 3 times. Immediately after that, may the gladdened Kalki intoxicate my mind with splendors of the profound and secret words, the sweet honey of the meaning of non-dual tantras, so that I may quickly manifest the 7-fold state. From this may I bear the suffering of those sinking in the ocean of samsara. And so it goes. In another prayer, titled Spontaneous Fulfillment of All Wishes, Lusan Choijin expresses his admiration for the Kalki kings of Shambhala. He prays for himself and others to be reborn in Shambhala, to dwell within the main retinue of the Kalki king, to attain the highest city, and to enjoy long life and vitality in this existence. He also prays for the flourishing of Dharma and for the flourishing of the secular world, which have politically entangled him and pose threats to his life. In the colophon of this prayer, Lusan Choijin he writes that he composed it out of relevant necessity, because you remember conditions in which he was from the previous lecture. Here, I will not read you this prayer because it's so long, but he prays, he invokes every of the kings of Shambhala, every Kalki, and he prays them and their beauty and appearance and visualizing them, and then asks them for prayers to be born there and be with them. Another notable scholar from Ifhure, Zavadandin, whom I mentioned in the previous lecture, and who was a contemporary of Lusan Choijin, faced significant scrutiny when Lusan Choijin was compelled to label his works as anti-revolutionary during interrogations by the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Government in 1936. Amidst these challenging circumstances, Zavadandin turned to Kala Chakra practices, aspiring for Ibazar Shambhala, and with his aspiration in mind, he composed a text titled A Quick Path to the Empty Form, a method of reciting the essence of the condensed Tantra, which I will explain to you, and you will be familiar more with that, which is very interesting in the next lecture. In this ritual text, Zavadandin synthesizes the path of preparation, initiation, and the stage of generation, offering prayers for rebirth in Shambhala with the following words: whatever the appearance of my life is obstructed, may the emanations of the deity Guru guide my path, may I be reborn in the pure land of Shambhala, and due to the guidance of the great Guru Kalki, may I mature and actualize the good fortune of liberation. In the future, when Kalki, the Chakravarti, rules in the 12 sections of Jambudvipa, may I be among the very first disciples and complete the profound yoga of the 2 stages of Kala Chakra. In the aspirational prayers referenced so far, the immediate objective of attaining rebirth in Shambhala is not regarded as a final destination, but rather as a crucial step toward achieving Buddhahood, which is in contrast to Shambhala, inconceivable and inexpressible. You can conceive Shambhala, but you can't conceive Buddhahood. The 20th century philosopher, whom many of you are familiar, Ludwig Wittgenstein, noted that to pray is to reflect on the meaning of life. For our authors, prayer signifies a declaration of one's commitment to new social and religious reality that foster the realization of a deeper understanding of the meaning of life. On December 3rd, 1928, a monk named Balden composed a 5-line prayer for rebirth in Shambhala. This prayer would later be used as a briefest Kala Chakra Poa practice during the turmoils against the Mongolian lamas who Oh, it's not working again.
Maybe it's this one? This one.
Oh, maybe that one doesn't have a battery. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
So this was a time of crisis when monks were being executed, and this was like the shortest Poa prayer or a practice that they considered. A briefest Poa practice during the turmoil against this Lama, who recited in their final moments before facing execution by firing squad. As they were lined up to be shot, they were reciting this prayer. The prayer aimed to assist them in transferring their consciousness to Shambhala immediately following their death, thereby protecting them from the rebirth in a place with adverse political conditions for practicing the Buddha Dharma. And you can see how this short prayer reads. So these are the times. So this prayer is written for the monks at this time when they were being shot. So, in conclusion, okay, I'll give you a minute as your attention is on images. So, we have seen that prose narratives and versified aspirational prayers for Shambhala serve as both communicative and prayerful expressions, rich with imagery, deeply embedded in their religious and social context. These texts are inextricably linked to the religious and cultural past, reflecting the aspirant dissatisfactions with their present reality, from which they seek to distance themselves both spatially and temporally. They articulate their envisioned roles in the future eschatological events. These expressions reveal personal concerns and articulate their yearning for a deeper connection with the envisioned place and its inhabitants. They are calls for the emergence of extraordinary religious experience within daily life, seeking to disrupt existing social and political structures through both personal and collective transcendence. They also invoke a vision of military victory over both present adversaries and anticipated future foes. So we have noted how a convergence of multimodal interactions encompassing linguistic expression, imaginations, and bodily activity, like pilgrimage, contribute to the multimodality of cognition and religious experience. And I'll end here.
Thank you very much, Professor Wallace.
Now we
for
can,
inspiring lecture.
if you have
So
more
the session
questions.
is now open to the floor. If you have questions, please raise your hand. Professor Wallace?
Thank you very much, Vesna, for this fascinating lecture and all this polysemic use of Shambhala for so many different levels and layers. My question is actually more specific, like in terms of taking rebirth in Shambhala. You know, when we're looking at similar aspiration prayers in the Sukhavati Zanva, there are certain conditions that have to be met for taking rebirth in the Pure Land. Like you have to dedicate your married, you have to recollect Buddha Amitabha, you know, and so on and so forth. But you mentioned that it's the power of the prayer alone sufficient to take rebirth there.
It's not my interpretation, it's what authors say.
Right. No, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
So that should be sufficient then.
Yeah,
if there are no other requirements.
Right. Exactly.
And
So in that regard, it's different than Amitabha's Sukhavati.
So one actually then, in some ways, one could be really a bad person or a negative person as long as
But
What
an everyday
makes-
person wouldn't want to go there.
Right.
They have to
Okay.
pronounce, and
Fair
they'll
enough.
never make it.
We'll never
According to
make
the
it.
tradition, guards wouldn't let them in when they come to the gates of Shambhala.
Right, very nice. And the other one is, are there any information of how rebirth takes place? Because I'm just trying to make some analogies now with Sukhavati. Like, how does
They're
it
born-
instantly born?
The consciousness, that upon death, it travels after those practices, right? Proper practices, and it travels directly to Shambhala and becomes conceived. Everybody is born from a womb.
Everybody's born from it.
Yeah. Even the Hurigans, even these princes who are
How
born.
is it in Sukhavati?
From a lotus born.
Yeah, it's different.
It's
Yeah,
different.
just
But
following
in
up.
Kshotyas, Apirati, they're born from a womb too, right? So it seems like each of these Pure Lands has its own way of being born.
Yeah, I mean, just following up the status of Shambhala, is it the same as like a Buddhist paradise where you have liberation basically?
Yeah.
Because normally, what I understand, like you said, Shambhala is still a place on this planet. Yeah, and I mean, you said something like a
that
parallel
is-
universe, but
Right, exactly.
But like theoretically, like I could go to Mongolia, get a horse, and ride off to the north, like and still reach, like in my body as a human being, like
they
on this
talk-
planet, I could reach Shambhala theoretically, right?
Yeah, they talk exactly. They talk about the merchants, through merchants with their caravans who came to Shambhala, but they were turned away. They could not enter. They had no permission to enter it.
Yeah, but that means that it has a different status. So to say.
Exactly.
It's
That's
not
what-
exactly the same like a pure land or.
But it is also, but they began to see it as a pure land, and you will see in the third lecture when we look at this these practices of transference to Shambhala. It's how Shambhala changes according to your development. First, it's physical, it can be very rich physically, and if you have a proper karma and connection with it, and then it can be Sukhavati,
So in
and
the
can be
end,
enlightened.
you mentioned also that Shambhala is not the final thing. It's
Yeah,
just,
because
from there you go on to
you can, from
Sukhavati, for example.
you can travel to all other Sukhavatis from Shambhala.
But why would you come back? Once you
To
reach
Shambhala?
Sukhavati?
Because this is a place where all of Mahayana and Vajrayana teachings are preserved. The other Pure Lands, they don't have Vajrayana teachings, only Mahayana teachings like Amitabha Pure Land and so on. And they cannot practice Tantra because they don't have physical bodies like this, right? Where in the Shambhala, you still have human gross physical body, so you can practice consult practices and practice these yogas that require to have a physical body.
That's what you gather from the text or from.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So how much is this idea of Shambhala spread in Mongolia? I mean,
Oh, it's
like
very
would
popular.
the general typical lay practitioner pray for rebirth in Sukhavati or rather for Shambhala? I mean,
Yeah,
how would you say? How many percent
Yeah,
of the lay
yes.
practitioners would
right.
go for Sukhavati or?
They don't pray much about Sukhavati.
Yeah. So it has really taken the place of Sukhavati in Mongolia.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Because it's a land of Vajrayana. This is where teachings for eternity are preserved. And then after this Shambhala war, you probably know in also Kala Chakra Tantra, they don't change it in the Mongolian context. When the Chakri wins, he goes to Akanishta heaven, right? Because he's an emanation of Vajrapani. And Shambhala is a land of Vajrapani where all these teachings are preserved. And then The Vajrapani is also protected deity of the Mongols. He guards the borders of Mongolia from an enemy invasion. And he's worshipped in Mongolia by the government every 4 years. So that's why they also feel connection, because it's lots of Vajrapani and it's Norse in Mongolia and so on. So that after there will be this big period of peace, right? And there won't be illness. It will be like a new era, the auspicious era after Kali Yuga, kind of, right? And in this era, people believed thousand years or so, the grains and everything will grow naturally, nobody will have to do any labor, and the king of Shambhala will divide, the whole Jambudvipa will be divided in northern and southern section. Northern section will be ruled by his son Brahma, and the southern section by his son Suresha. And eventually, then through long period of time, the caste system will be reintroduced in India, in the north. And it is in the Jambudvipa, right? And because of that introduction of a caste system, deterioration will begin in terms of ethics, in terms of lives of life, and so on. Because from the very early on, Kala Chakra criticizes the caste system as a major problem in India. That this is why Kala Chakra teachings were kept secret in Shambhala and were not brought to India until this time of crisis, because people were not ready to do this kind of practices that would violate certain Brahmanic practices of diet and so on.
Just to add something, so it is similar to Zantopelry in some ways, because also the Vajrayana teachings are preserved there, so it is kind of a tantric pure line. So basically Shambhala is, there's some, it's not only Mahayana pure line. Thank you very much, this is fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Wallace, for a wonderful presentation with all the rich narratives and vivid imagery. I have a question on Morgan Gaten's aspirational prayer. He has very specific descriptions on, how to conquer or how to defeat the enemies, with the horses and elephants. So how did he reconcile with the Mahayana ideal of compassion, and liberation of all, including your enemies?
Right.
So how would he do that?
First, they justify it by saying that everybody who is killed in that battle will go to Sukhavati. It's like a blessing of this Raudra Chakri, right? They justify it in that way. So they said that Buddha subdued the world by peaceful means. But the era that will take place the sentient beings will not be able to be subdued by peaceful means anymore. They will have to be subdued by fierce means. That is the only means that will work because of the degradation of ethics and so on. For some of Mongolians, some Mongolian kind of historical chronicles and prophecies, the Raudra Chakri actually, Genghis Khan will be Raudra Chakri.
Yeah, I was going to ask about like the Genghis Khan cult. Is it related also?
Yeah,
to this,
at some point,
logical, like a final war.
Yeah, at some point he had to be
Genghis Khan will come back and restore.
Yeah, so So Genghis Khan is, for some, he is going to be Raudra Chakri. For some, he will be this Hanuman, military general who will conquer. And he will appear there as a emanation of Vajrapani. For Mongolian Buddhists, Genghis Khan is emanation of Ajahn.
So how popular is this Genghis Khan cult now in Mongolia?
Oh, very popular. Yeah. Even
Well,
Mongols.
that's scary, I would say.
They don't see him the way we see him. They say him, they always try to justify, how, but they celebrate him because he united all these Mongol tribes and made Mongolia. So he's their father, kind of, right? So they take this pride.
Restore the Mongolian Empire.
Yeah, and then he kind of gives them Mongol entity. Yes, you had a question.
Thank you, Professor. I have a question regarding the short prayer composed by Javadanti, as you mentioned, where it consists of the preparation, initiation, and generation stage. So does that mean, by simply reciting this short prayer, that we kind of fulfill the function of preparation?
No, but rather that plays role in all of these stages. Yeah, but yeah. I think you will see different people, authors will say different, in this terrible crisis that there were, where they were basically being killed, right? They said prayer is enough. For some, that's what it's enough, right? But others said, no, you still have to do these practices. Because if they have written some of these before war started, they could have still designed these practices earlier.
Yes. Another question is: are there dream yoga practices to go to Shambhala? You mentioned Boa as one. We will talk in your next lecture about this. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, they didn't talk about dream yoga and travel to Shambhala, but rather like what Rabja was experiencing in dreams. And he saw Shambhala, right? He has this vision in not even in meditation. He saw it where he entered this piece of land, which then he marked with these two passes as a portal, because he saw celestial Shambhala there at the vision. But I haven't heard about dreams.
So would it be correct to say that Shambhala?
Mongols, Tibetans, yes.
Yes.
Tibetans talk about vision Shambhala in dreams.
It was reading.
Go to Shambhala.
Mongols talk.
From
Yeah, so Tibetans do talk about it, but not Mongols. Mongols always claim that they were in person.
So would it be correct to say that there's 3 layers of understanding Shambhala? At the level of Dharmakaya, it's just a metaphor for the awakened mind. After you want practice Kala Chakra and accomplish the Kala Chakra Tantra, then there is the Sambhogakaya level where it's actually visiting there, and then there's also the Nirmanakaya, which is like a real terrestrial place.
Exactly.
So it we can find like parallels with 3 bodies of the Buddha or something.
Exactly, it depends on the person's clarity.
Fascinating.
Any other question? The gentleman in the middle.
They don't even go on a horse. You can fly with a horse.
请允许我用中文来讲，因为我英文不太好。但是我是在Indo-Mongolia 就是在内蒙古出生长大的，所以我从小就在。他会翻译。对，因为我是在中国的内蒙古出生长大的，然后我从小就是在科尔沁，就霍尔沁，就是科尔沁地区的蒙古的寺院学这些传统的文献和经文。其实刚才大家问的很多问题，我是想做一个补充的解答。那么第一个呢，就是大家反复的在问说，念这个丁或者就是10轮的这个祈祷文，其他的 本尊需要一个完整的修行仪式。但是十轮金刚的祈祷文，它念诵了之后，是不是直接能起到一个完整的作用？其实是可以的，因为在这个蒙古的佛教系统当中，丁克的就是十轮金刚是最高级的，甚至不需要念它的祈祷文，你仅仅是见到了它的咒语的文字的或者是图案的形式，未来就必定成佛。所以这个无论是蒙古的皇帝还是满洲的皇帝，包括今天北京的白塔，它的正面都是一个十轮金刚的形象，就是所有的人只要见到这个塔也成佛，就更不要说念祈祷文了。当然因为过去有文化的人并不多呀，所以能念祈祷文的人也很罕见。对，
看其他听友普通话的经络，
好，
要不要就做一个总结，把你的故事说出来
？So I'll translate for Dr. Lee. So first of all, Dr. Lee introduces himself that he was born from Inner Mongolia of China. So he was born in what we call Kurchin right now, which is Horchin in like a traditional like Mongolian. And then so he also has a lot of experience when it comes to text and scripture. So parts of the discussion that has been going on, which was regarding like whether solely through the recitation of Kala Chakra's prayer and aspiration to be born in Shambhala was sufficient, and other deities or idams, they require a complete like practice from like daily practice, and of course included in the aspirational prayers for their Sukhabhati. However, like so the question is whether or not the sole recitation of Kala Chakra's prayer would be good enough, and then to have the full effect of being able to be reborn in Shambhala. So, well, the answer is yes, because Dr. Lee really did express that, like, not only because Kala Chakra is the highest level idam, so there's even text saying that, like, maybe you don't even need to recite prayers. If you can have the fortune of looking at the text of the mantra, like in script, in writing or in picture, then the seed of achieving full Buddhahood hasn't really been planted. So, like, therefore, in the past, whether or not it's been Mongolian emperors or Manchurian emperors, even in Beijing right now, in the White Stupa, there has always been a Kala Chakra like figure.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then like so, anyone who has the fortune of seeing this stupa can be fully liberated and to become full Buddha in the future. So because in the past, like, there's a lot of people who are like less educated because like education was not so popular back then, and then therefore like this is really a method to help more people, help them to get closer to Buddhahood. I'll pass it back to Dr. Lee.
还有第二个帮助他解答的问题呢，就是刚才这位女士问说，这个十轮金刚里面有要杀人的战争的内容，是不是有违大乘佛教的这个慈悲啊、和平的精神？其实并不违背，因为蒙古民族它跟其他的大多数民族不一样，但这个民族一出生就沉寂在战争当中，随时要面临死亡。但是恰恰是因为有十轮金刚的这么一个教法，那么甚至没有时间去学习文字的人，只要见到这个图案就有机会成佛，所以给他们极大的精神上的安慰。所以蒙古人对于这个十轮金刚是异常的坚定的信仰它，因为它能带来极大的是佛的光辉的光芒的慰藉，是这样一个道理。那么里边关于这个战争的杀戮呢，其实它主要指的是在人类释迦牟尼佛最后结束的时候，这整个世界其实都是伊斯兰教的了。那么伊斯兰教是要摧毁佛教的，这经文里面是这样讲的。所以蒙古地区很多传统的老一代的喇嘛，他那个大陆有那个清真食品，上面有专门的标签，他会把这个清真的标签抠掉，也就不留。那么最后呢，其实是以一种什么呢？是蒙古民族它是一种战争形态下成长大的， 与大多数的民族在和平环境当中长大是不一样的，所以他们向往的是战争的胜利。那这个胜利呢，由于他信仰的是佛教，所以他认为他最后是为了保护佛教而取得的胜利。这种胜利是永世，是为了世界和平的。它是这样的一个逻辑模式。谢谢。
And then, like, also, like, sharing his perspective on the question previously raised, whether or not, like, the metaphor of, like, you know, like, the triumph of the army and then the killing of people, like, whether or not that was, you know, like, maybe going against, like, Mahayana compassion and peaceful ideas. So one thing that's very special about this when it comes to Kalachakra Tantra is because I'm sure you know, is the Mongolian tribe or the Mongol, like the people itself, because the people were born into war and they have to face death, quite frankly, like at a very daily basis. So if there is a teaching of Kalachakra and then like that really helps people who doesn't have time or opportunity to learn about you know, like literature and text and stuff, just to looking at the mantra and fantasy of Buddhahood, then it's a great blessing and it's a great comfort for Mongolian people. So like knowing that, oh, like I have to kill at the same time, can I, you know, like achieve Buddhahood in the future, or I'm doing more bad, right? So therefore, like Mongolians have a very strong, like extraordinary sense of like faith, because like of the, you know, like Buddha's teachings. So therefore, yeah. And then again, like coming back to like the symbology of like war, is also because at the end of the Shakyamuni Buddha's teaching, like the world really like turns into more and more chaos. And not to get into too much like religious like controversy, but like on the scripture, there's like mention about the world is heavily like run by Islamic religion, really. And then Islamic religion, well, according to the text, is about like, you know, like getting rid of Buddhism as a whole. So therefore, like even in like older lamas in the Mongol region, and there were these like tags on foods that like labels like it's like Islamic food, and they're like, you know, the lamas would really just like rip off the label. So that's something like culture wise. So yeah, and then so coming back to it, it's really about like the Mongol clan and the Mongol people. They were like people, they were born in war. Therefore, it's very different from, let's say, like the Han. So like the Chinese clan, which was born mostly in peace. So therefore, like since they believed in Buddhism and is to protect Buddhism, and they would have to find a victory. So yeah, that's just some thoughts we shared.
Thank you. This idea of liberation by seeing, you can find in the Tibetan tradition as well. But frankly, I haven't encountered that much, at least among Khalpa Mongols, where I do most of my research, that the faith becomes more important than just by mere seeing something, not necessarily. We have lots of stories about like stories, the power of text. I'm thinking of all these commentaries on Vajrachedika, the Diamond Cutter Sutra, Mahana Sutra, where a girl who is an orphan, she finds a little piece of sutra, just ripped, you know, little piece of paper written in the Tibetan language. She's illiterate, doesn't know what it means, but she worships it, she puts it on her head, and therefore then she finds a wealthy husband, has a good life, you know, prosperous life, and so on. So you have lots of these kind of stories as well. But it is kind of true that not just the Mongolians, that oftentimes people from different backgrounds, when they see sometimes some Kalachakra deities or they see Kalachakra symbol, they become intrigued, right? And they want to learn more. And like, what is this? Become curious. Like it stays in their memory, and they come later, 2-3 years later, like, yeah, I was always wondering, I always remember seeing that and someone. Yes, but you are, I agree with what you said.
So, any more questions? If there are no more questions, let's end here by giving another big round of applause. Thank you once again to the programs for celebrating for the today. Prof. Wallace will offer one more lecture, the final one for this series, next Monday. Same time,
That
same
one will be
place.
more interesting.
So please don't miss it, and we hope to see you all again in the coming lecture. Thank you.
Thank you.